Good afternoon, good evening, and good day. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast, and how am I late today? But let's get started. Let me change up a few things here in the studio, make sure I can actually see what you guys see, and then we'll get started. Just a moment. I'm going to switch this over to, we want a projector of the output. And then while we wait for that to load up, we will switch to web view. We'll make sure that the collab cam is still turned on. It says it is. All right. Now let's go to the presentation view and hit transition. All right. Now let's put this where I can see it. There we go. And to free up some computer resources, we will turn off studio mode. There we go. So here we are. This first one is from Dan, and I'm not sure. I haven't read the electric version of this article, but there's an 80 mile per hour um, military e-bike that's been opened up for the defense division. Uh, I think that the only way you could make this happen is as a military device because I think in every country in the world that actually has limits on these sorts of things, it's a little too fast for a bicycle. It would need to be not even a moped. It would have to be a full-on motorcycle. So there we go. Here it is. It looks pretty nice. Still is a bicycle or a moped because it's got pedals. It's rear-wheel drive only. I think that not front-wheel drive, but two-wheel drive would be something they might find use for. It would up the cost, but I'm sure they're already paying a defense premium. Let's see. Here we go. See, technically in the U.S., they're limited to a speed of 28 miles per hour. But that's just for civilians. My goodness, it's got a 10 kilowatt motor, 10.5, 10,500 watt motor can send the bike flying at speeds of up to 80 miles per hour. And if you're wondering if the bike pedals well at such high speeds, you might be surprised at the answer. I'm guessing the answer should be yes. I hope. You can achieve pedal speeds of over 50 miles an hour. Click of your heel, you can enable 2.5 overdrive feature to maximize your efficiency at high speeds. Goodness gracious. Throttle only range of up to 100 miles. Yeah, that's definitely not 80 miles an hour. And let's see. Wearing a $1,800 to $2,000 fork, depending on the loadout. Well, if that's just one part of the bike, then you know the rest of it's going to cost more. Let's see, this comment is, from a financial standpoint, this makes a lot of sense. Just the soldier, their gear, and an e-bike. I don't know much about military budgets, but this seems like the most efficient way to move troops overland. Depending on the mission, maybe. Depending on the mission. All right, well, oh wait, here's electric stake. Gonna go out on a limb here and say that there's an overlap between veterans and e-bike journalists. One of the few people who have the unique experience of riding a bike as part of my service. One outside of the novel issues like trying to keep your flash suppressor out of the spokes. It's hard to beat the advantages of an e-bike mobility for a soldier. The ability to maneuver both quickly and quietly through rough terrain is something that bests both combustion-powered dirt bikes and good old-fashioned humping it on foot. Anyone who's ever completed a 12-mile ruck march is probably drooling over a bike like this. To be realistic, these types of extreme high speeds are unlikely to be used off-road, though, at least not outside of long, relatively smooth and straight dirt roads. But these levels of power and torque are certainly useful for off-road terrain and mountainous areas with steep inclines, not to mention the extra weight usually carried by soldiers. So having the extra speed available certainly isn't a bad thing, as you never know when you're going to need to leave in a hurry. This isn't terrible, really. I mean, when you think about, we had mounted soldiers forever for a reason. So this will replace the horse. I just I agree more with this person who actually was a bicycle mounted soldier over the person who's like, yeah, bikes are good for everything. Yeah, just replace them with bikes. Thanks for sharing, Dan. And now let's load up the stories that I found for the week. I've got this tweet here. Copy and paste. What are we looking at? Gave me no hints. Nissan says no more ICE funding amid Toyota and other rivals' new engine commitment. So, what now? 2 weeks ago, I ragged on Toyota for the same old. The announced something with solid state batteries or hydrogen, and then whine about us saying that they're anti EV, and then they say something blatantly anti EV, like they were talking about their new engine development, and then Nissan comes out now and says we're not going to do that. Good on you, Nissan. Good on you. What we're looking at here is a picture of the Nissan Aria, which is their current EV. It replaces the Leaf, and then we've got Leaf Gen 3, but really actually Gen 2 coming up soon. Lee says, "Morning, happy Sunday. Good morning, good to see you." And let's open this up. Let's see. Uh, Interestingly, this morning as I was getting ready, I found that there was an article that said Renault got together with a couple others and is developing a combustion engine, which same thing I said for Toyota. Like, unless it's just literally an iteration on something you've already done, you're running out of time on this because we've got our fine folks in Norway. Next year is their last year. Which I know. Next year is the first year of EV only. So you're looking at diminishing returns if you invest any real money into making these new combustion engines. Good morning, Anders. Good evening, Anders. Good to see you. And let's see what Electric thinks about it and what their highlighted comment happens to be. Uh, we'll go on about how Nissan became the hare and the tortoise and the hare and got left behind. We can see this is a right-hand drive model because the charge port door is on what would be the passenger side in most of the world, and yeah, they don't have it. They have it on the driver's side. So this is going to be a right-hand drive vehicle, and we've got one of their concepts of what's coming up. So Electrek says Japanese automakers have been some of the biggest laggards as the industry shifts to all electric. Despite Toyota, Mazda, and Subaru revealing plans to develop new ICE engines, Nissan is taking a different path. And then at this point, I kind of have to give credit to Mitsubishi. They don't have a lot of resources to work with, and they at least have a decent plug-in hybrid, and they have continued to pull it forward and pull it forward, so and sell it out. So Nissan and Mitsubishi, who would have expected it with everything else you have to decide from in Japan? All right, so the top comment is the only thing Toyota, Subaru, Mazda teamed up on is common front on greenwashing. They were touting three wildly different engines: Toyota Inline 4, Subaru Boxer, and Mazda Rotary. Yeah, you can't collaborate on. There's no commonality between any of this. Like, I guess you can say the inline could be a Boxer, but nothing at all you can do with the Rotary with all of that, unless they're talking about like, yeah, we're gonna use. No, you can't even use the valves because the Rotary doesn't use valves that way. So I don't know. Not even the crankshaft. What are they collaborating on? No Mazda work on the Rotary is helping make the Toyota i4 or Subaru Boxers. It isn't working on other engines. Correct. They're all just proclaiming carbon neutral fuels as greenwashing clutch. Carbon neutral fuels are a joke. They are egregiously inefficient and extremely unlikely to ever play a significant role in passenger cars. Correct. You might be able to swap them out in jets, but over the long haul, it'll make more sense to make a jet that can run directly on electricity or hydrogen, which is still electricity with extra steps and way more inefficiency. Than this whole carbon from the air into synthetic fuels back into the air as carbon again. Boondoggle. I applaud Nissan for not joining in on their misleading greenwashing stunt. Yeah, indeed. You guys might remember years ago, those of you that know me a long time, about how I told myself and others I would never buy a Nissan hybrid because Carlos Ghosn got up on stage and said that the hybrids are stupid and they suck and blah blah blah. And then next thing you know, they had a Camry based Altima. I said, well, it looks pretty, and I know it'll be all right because it's got a Camry in there. But why would I want to buy it from a guy who said that hybrids are stupid? But then he, put the money where his mouth was, and then a few years later, the Leaf came out. He was always saying electric was the way to go, even before they had an electric car. So I had every reason to say that, yeah, let's look into the Leaf. And I took a couple test drives, but it just didn't work out for my commute, thankfully, because had it worked out, I would have bought one, and then this was pre-Lizard batteries, and I would have been in a pickle having a car that can't actually make it to work. So ended up with a Volt, and the rest is history from there. Volt to Model S to Model 3 for a week to Model X. Not that the Model 3 ever stayed in my hands. It was just in my name for a week. Um, and then the Model X, and here we are today. By doubling down, Nissan is setting itself up to be more competitive in the future. Meanwhile, Toyota and other Japanese rivals are moving backward. I like that. I don't know if it was intentional or not. But Toyota used to have when I worked for them, they had a slogan, moving forward, and moving backward. Um, Toyota's EV sales are around 1% of volume this year, and that is well below most rivals with double-digit or 100% electric car sales now. With more funding and resources for ICE vehicles, Toyota, Mazda, and Subaru are only pushing themselves further behind the pack. Then they ask, what do people think? Can Nissan separate itself from Japanese rivals? Let us know your comments. Uh, Toyota isn't fully out of this if they can make sure that they don't go broke. EVs are much simpler than everything else, and with their plug-in hybrids and their fuel cells, they already have half an electric car. So really, at that point, they can just buy somebody else's battery and make sure they've got a decent enough motor, and they can do this. It's not like they haven't been making cars for almost 100 years now. It's just that it seems that they're not gonna swerve in time in this game of chicken that they're playing. They've got what they need, and they've got the money to just buy somebody else's stuff and put their name on it. So don't count out Toyota yet, but also don't pat them on the back every time they show us the newest shiny bauble, and don't give in when they say don't call us anti-EV, as they make political contributions and corporate statements and executive statements that are exactly the opposite of them supporting EVs. Now, the others, Mazda and Subaru, they don't have the luxury of that Toyota does of just sitting on billions of dollars. So if they don't wake up, they could be gone. It's just the way it is. Let's go on. Let's see if clicking on links makes them open up, or if it sends them randomly on a computer. Ah, good. It's in a good mood today. Ford CEO doubles down on affordable EVs after BYD, China's EV bet is paying off. I didn't read this article. I think I just brought it up because it says that Ford's doubling down on EVs. And the point of it, the affordable EVs is where we need to go. We don't need too many more luxury, high-powered EVs. High performance comes almost for free with an EV, so I'm not saying don't do it if you've got the capabilities. What I'm saying is you're going to find more winners in in the affordable segments of the market. We've got plenty from $35,000 after incentives all the way up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. We need more options in the new affordable normal space. The average, I don't mean average as in, hey, the average American car is now $60,000 or $70,000. I don't mean that. I mean, when you tell somebody affordable car, they're thinking an old Civic, an old Camry, an old Accord, uh, those sorts of things. And by old, I mean the ones of yesteryear, not a used one. If you can do that, or an SUV CUV version, because marketing has strongly told people they need the biggest vehicle out there. If you can do that, you will stand to get a nice piece of this pie. And as we talked about last week, some folks were looking at the BYD Seal, and they remarked that it wasn't what they thought it was, a punishment mobile. It was nice to sit in, nice to touch. I can't tell you anything about the engineering. It might be a little bit that old school Hyundai Kia philosophy where all the stuff you can touch is where they put the money, and then the structure is just whatever it takes to pass the certifications. But we need more options in order to complete this. And also, like I noticed when we talked about the how I was following the narrative of the fossil folks with the Sankey charts, we are further ahead than we talk about, but we need to keep the pressure on because if we let up, then that whole EVs aren't selling or whatever crap Toyota is spewing this week that is anti EV, then those folks will win, and then our children get to suffocate on planet Earth or die in horrific megastorms. Moving on. All right, we just talked about Nissan. I got it twice apparently. All right, this one is a little more interesting. It's an accordion style modular solar array that withstands 166 mile per hour winds. This is substantial because I think that my solar array is only rated for 160 miles per hour on my roof. Beyond that, they said, well, it sounds like a problem for your home insurance. Because when you look at what type of hurricane that is, they're assuming that while the panels will survive, the rest of the house will not. So that's why they went as high as they did with their warranty. So what this is an array that kind of just is a ground mount and it kind of unfolds, and you can deploy it with the truck. Australian company's 5B mobile solar array unfolds like an accordion and is designed to endure extreme weather and harsh environments. Modular arrays on the move. So you've got a 69 megawatt contract by U.S. utility AES Corporation and Jacobs, a hurricane-prone in a hurricane-prone region in western Puerto Rico. Gives 100 megawatts of 4-hour battery energy storage, and you get 1392 of the 5B Maverick modular solar arrays, which can be used for off-grid, remote, commercial, and industrial applications. You get 48 to 50 kilowatt modular ground arrays. And they're prefabricated and pre-wired at the factory, so you just set them on the ground and then just unfold them with a lift like this. So this will have the potential, depending on how they've priced it, do two things. One, it will aid in recovery after disaster. After, say, a hurricane come through and destroyed your windmills, you can roll out some more solar. Or in the case of what happened in Puerto Rico, your entire infrastructure is destroyed, including the power plants, all the lines, everything. You can build back better instead of build back the same and then try and get an upgrade. There were comments made that they had to rebuild exactly as it was before the hurricane hit, before they could talk about making things better, which is just asinine. And this is something better than that. And I thought it was cool. So each 5B Maverick composes of 90 solar modules mounted on 9 hinged racks between 10 composite steel concrete beams. Excuse me. The solar arrays are shipped in and an accordion folded stack and unfolded on site to a 10-degree pitch and securely fastened. They say the array can achieve 98% more energy yield per unit area, kilowatt hours per hectare, than a single axis tracker systems, really. And for those who aren't aware, the trackers that we typically think of are the multi axis trackers that just follow the sun like the head of a flower. Single axis tracker I may have showed a couple of them in some of my videos. They just rotate in one direction. You put them basically facing uh, east. As the day goes on, they go up, and then they face west. Or there's the other option where you have your stuff facing south, and then as the sun tracks through the sky, they can rotate uh, parallel to the ground rather than through a perpendicular arc or perpendicular arc. And that's something that they keep saying whenever somebody's like, "Well, why don't I put a tracker at my house?" Well, if you have the land, it's cheaper just to buy more cells than more panels than to install a tracker. So just buy more panels and they'll take care of it. And that's the approach they've gone for here. And their 10-degree pitch seems to have taken care of um, beating a tracker. But at the same time, though, you could really just say they have a solid state tracker because it's permanently facing both directions. As long as they have good bypass circuitry, then the ones that are out of the sun or at a bad angle can just either contribute what they can, or you can just cut them out while they're out of the angle. So Electric says utility scale in Puerto Rico has been slow due to bureaucratic delays. So apparently the stories I've been hearing are accurate. An extensive infrastructure rebuilding due to Hurricanes Maria 17, Fiona 22, and the unique solar array has the potential to help speed up scale solar deployment. Mm-hmm. When it comes to distributed solar, however, Puerto Rico has 680 megawatts of it, along with 1.6 gigawatt hours of residential battery storage. So what happened here is after their island got whacked repeatedly, folks were buying power walls and power wall competitors, or even doing DIY battery packs because nobody wants to be sitting in the dark. And the prices have finally become at a level where they could do this scale of deployment. Moreover, about 4,500 rooftop solar systems are being added monthly. Good gracious, that's fast. With battery attachment rate of 100%. So basically, if you get solar there, we're talking better than California. California with their NEM 3 encourages you highly to use a battery pack, but right now it's looking like if you get solar in Puerto Rico, you're also getting a battery. So again, people remember sitting in the dark, having to do generators or just suffer. So they're just when they put their solar out, they're also putting on a battery with it. Just incredible. And an average of 1.2 batteries per system. So people are getting what they can afford, and if they can, they're going to get more than just enough to survive through part of the night. They're going to try to make it to the next sunrise. I like that. Uh, Author was in Puerto Rico recently and heard many stories of people's power being out for months. It's unsurprising that they are taking measures into their own hands with rooftop solar and battery storage. Yeah, I would do the same. In fact, you guys are seeing me do the same actively, both with this building and with the HV Nomads project. They got an ad. I didn't see any of the highlighted comments on this one. So cool. As panels get cheap, you don't need to worry about pointing them right at the sun. This uses more panels but fewer acres to make electricity. So depending on the relative price of those two things, is a good idea or not. Yep. About weeds. So somebody who looked into the source documents says vegetation management, similar to mechanical and chemical techniques used with conventional solar technologies, 5B are conducting research into additional automation and biocontrols such as robotic mowers and native ecosystem support. We do know about weeds in Australia. Shoot, yeah. If all the creatures are trying to kill you out there, I don't imagine there aren't a lack of plants trying to kill you out there. Dave says basically the same thing. I would think a country that deals with drop bears can probably handle a few weeds. uh, so let's look at the next article. What do we got here? We talked about Nissan. We talked about these solar arrays. Gregor Truck did something. What did he do? Or link to? Ah, the new Idra or Hydra casting equipment has been spotted being delivered to Giga Texas today in Peter Dog 15's video. And here we can see an Hydra casting machine going into Giga Texas. And I don't know what they're building there, if it's part of the factory or if it's where they're going to put all those GPU clusters they didn't take delivery of. Delivered via 42 wheeler. The rigs at Giga Texas are unreal. The trucks that deliver the bridge crane beams for casting structure were the longest I've ever seen. It's a big building. Takes up far less space than semiconductors, and it's critical for a company recently pivoted away from EV manufacturing to AI. All right, so before they argue with that guy, let's go on to something else. This one's from Sawyer. Sawyer Merritt says, news. More money is being poured into solar than all other electricity generation technologies combined. A new global report is found with power sector management in photovoltaic technology projected to exceed $500 billion in 2024. That's great. Electrify all the things, and preferably from the sun. I don't mean, you know, ancient sun. I mean current sun today, like wind and solar and hydro, not carbon we dig out of the ground and pump out of the ground and then set on fire. All right, that's enough of that. Moving on. How about a clutch for your EV? I don't mean your home built EV that you're just using the transmission that was already in the car before you took out the motor and replaced it with an engine, or an engine and replaced it with a motor. I'm talking a production EV with a clutch. Well, you might think I was talking about that stupid Lexus program that we talked about a couple months ago, but no, this one sounds actually reasonable, and it's coming from General Motors. Let's take a look. And I say it's stupid, but obviously, Hyundai knew who they were going after with their Ionic 5N, where it makes vroom vroom noises and has a rev limiter and all the other stuff that makes a gas car inferior. Uh, Apparently, they got good marks all around for making that thing. Uh, Whatever it takes to get the people out of the fossils into EVs, even if they have to pretend that they're still driving a gas car, fine. But this isn't that. This is coming from Haggerty's, and what GM is doing here, as you can see by the title, no pedal is required. So this clutch, they do mention in their patent application, they do mention a driver input, but driver input isn't even like at the top of the list of what they're considering for reasons that this thing would be clutching. So if you're using permanent magnet motors, Monroe talks about this all the time, when you are done applying power and you're not trying to regen, so you want to just coast down the highway, so you've got like a medium hill and you're not worried about picking up speed and you don't want to lose speed. With a permanent magnet motor, that means that you have to have a mitigation to not have that thing induce current back into the vehicle or to do the cogging thing. So we've seen this already with the Tesla Semi. Tesla has the dog clutch that they use to bring in and out the dual motors on the Semi, because normally they run around on one motor of the three. For those who haven't kept up, the four motors has not been deployed to production. It's only been basically a bigger, beefier version of the Plaid motor, but with a clutch. And that one's also automatic, but here's GM's version of it, and so that allows them to remove the uh, the permanent magnet motors from the driveline, for either things like improved coasting or if you've looked at folks with RVs, they tend to have very specific vehicles that they like to drag behind their buses. There, you've got a lot of old Saturns, you've got certain Jeeps, you've got certain other vehicles, because you can disconnect their drivetrain from the wheels, so that way nothing is spinning and needing work done to it to be safe to move down the road. And there's various versions of that. Some of them you have to do stuff to the transmission. Some of them you have to um, get them set up a certain way, so that way stuff that would need to be taken care of is lubricated. And this is basically that. Patent secured by GM Global Technology Operations LLC, published on May 16th of 24, hints that GM is developing a clutch for use on some of its future electric vehicles. The patent describes a method of operating a vehicle's clutch using an actuator device that relies on measuring fluid pressure to determine the position of the piston within the actuator. Uh, it's very technical and dense, but they managed to phrase out the important bits, parse out the important bits. So basically, this sounds exactly like another way to do what Tesla did with the semi truck. Some people think that GM's doing a three-pedal EV, but nothing in the patent document suggests that. On the contrary, the patent includes several inputs for the clutch operation, and the driver is only one of them. There's no mention of a clutch pedal whatsoever. So, always like innovation, and even though it sounds weird at first, give it a try. It's not hurting anybody. Then the folks at Top Gear suggest that we need a new traffic light color. Or not. Folks at Top Gear are telling us about a report where U.S. researchers are suggesting that we need a new traffic light color. And they did a terrible job of explaining how it would work. Uh, but this group suggested it doesn't have to be this color, but they suggested a white traffic light for platooning, and they suggested that it could improve throughput once we get to about 25 to 40% of autonomous vehicles. And they suggested that as long as drivers aren't trying to overtake and they maintain a reasonable distance, they don't have to keep a platoon level of distance, but just don't let the gap get too big. And if the gap does get too big, it would revert back to the red, green, and yellow. And the concept makes sense to me. The implementation of how they described it is, I don't understand. But when you've got a majority or even a significant portion of the vehicles autonomous on the road, they will respond consistently. They will respond way more rationally than any human ever will. And taking advantage of that is not a bad idea. So maybe read somebody else's version of this article because Top Gear did a terrible job explaining it. And look for this in the future as the governments listen to this group and refine the idea. All right, and uh, this one here, I'm curious what the real story is. They've basically purchased satellite imagery of the Tesla factory outlets and their some of their parking areas, like the malls they're renting and stuff for overflow. And then they're drawing the conclusion that here we are at the beginning of June. That means that Tesla can't sell cars. When, as we all know, what is very likely happening, assuming that their narrative that Musk has scared people away with wild proclamations, what we know is happening in the past, assuming that the past is repeating itself here, is that Tesla is has this habit of getting the cars where they need to go so that they all deliver at the last week of the quarter. And so now they're finally all arriving where they need to go. Why they're piling up at the factory? Maybe that's for the next season. Who knows? But if you use this person to suggest what you should do with your stock purchases, again, this is not advice, stock advice. I'm not a fiduciary. I'm not. Go talk to your own people. But what we'll likely see happen is the same thing we've seen happen every quarter for the last few quarters. We're going to see them sell all these cars, all of the demos, all of the loaner cars, and then set yet another record, and then start this cycle over. And we've been hearing for months now, years, that Elon said that they were going to smooth out this process and then not have end of quarter pushes, and then they may be smaller than they have been in the past, but we haven't seen an end to these waves. So that was all I had to say about that. Followed up by somebody else who buys into the EVs aren't moving narrative. Ignore their phrasing of all that BS, because as we see quarter after quarter, EVs are moving. They are selling better than their fossils. And you look at the percentages, the only ones going up consistently are EVs. The numbers may be going up lower than they, like smaller numbers of up than they were in the past, but when you look at everybody's sales, everybody who sells EVs, they're going up. Even Toyota, they're going up. Um, but that's not what I was here for. I was actually here for, you guys know that I've pretty much stopped keeping track of all the various changes in prices of Tesla, Toyota, Ford, Rivian, etc., etc. Did I mention? Yes, baby. Oh, you brought me that baby stethoscope. Okay, thank you. Uh, Basically, I've given up tracking everybody's prices because they're all over the map and they're doing this all month long, all year long. And before she came in, I was asking if I'd mentioned the new refreshes for the Rivians. I don't know that I did, but Rivian has revamped the R1S and the R1T, and they are more compelling than they ever were. I think we did talk about it because we talked about battery packs. I don't recall. If I skipped them, it wasn't out of spite. I still like them, and I looked at them, and I enjoyed what I was looking at. So if you were already into a Rivian, I'd recommend these new ones. I even configured a couple, and they were nice. But the reason I brought this one up is even though I'm not actively tracking what all these prices are doing, unless, and here's why, unless there's something super compelling out there, here is something super compelling. So with the Ford Lightning, you can get a significant chunk of change back. We're looking at there's a new $2,500 incentive, which doesn't sound like a lot, and it's the point where I would not normally cover it. However, with the 2,500, you also got a 7,000 red carpet lease customer cash on equivalent that's already out there, so that gives you now 97.50 off. Is that not significant? If you were already in the market for a Ford F-150 Lightning, so I wanted to share that with the group, and there it is, up to 97.50 off. Just ignore all that crap they said about, even though EVs are hard to sell or some garbage like that. Yeah, this garbage right here. Some dealers are having trouble with it. Doesn't mean that EVs are not moving. You need to not repeat what you heard. Go look at the actual numbers. Continuing on, and continuing on Ford, the all-electric Ford Explorer has rolled off the line. It's out there. It's got its debut. And this is not the Ford Explorer in the States that we were all thinking of. This is a Volkswagen ID something with Ford badges on it, and not just Ford badges. It wasn't a badge engineered like the Subaru Solterra. Uh, it shares a lot with the ID, but Ford did have quite a bit of input on this car. Uh, it's not entirely Ford. Like the interface will have a little bit of mismatch of Ford and Volkswagen in it, but for those of you in Europe, you can get another EV option. Doesn't look half bad, and then it's going to perform well, and it looks like it was well thought out. Then Elon saying stuff again. What is he saying this week? He says that FSD 12.4 will drive a year between interventions. Sure. Uh, Fred says there's a caveat. And the caveat is One, aside from it being late. Two, that. All right, here's the quote. FSD 12.4.1 releases today to Tesla employees. If that goes well, then it will be released to a limited number of external customers this weekend. I think this is also late because it just went out to Tesla employees. Although I did see a video of Chris, aka Dirty Tesla. I didn't watch it because it came as I was walking out the door for a trip we were taking. Um, I'll take a look at that and see if he is somebody outside of Tesla who got it, or if the weird way he titled his video was for a reason. Um, the reason I didn't stop and try to watch any of it on my way out the door, aside from that I was already going to be late, was that he made it sound like he rode in somebody else's car, not even drove in it. So I was like, well, this isn't worth being late for. And then I just left it open just in case I could watch it later. Da, 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 da. There are a massive number of changes in this build. It should arguably be called, and it's not like the first time we've heard him say this, it should arguably be called version 13, but we're sticking to version 12. I say, Elon says stuff. I'm not calling him a liar. I'm just saying he says stuff. And it doesn't always happen the way he says it. Um, it makes the impossible merely late, right? Let's see. He opted up by saying that it'll come without a steering wheel nag and it will be able to drive 5 to 10 times more miles per intervention. And now the CEO says that it will drive over a year before getting one intervention. And then he continues on in his tweet. He says two other versions are in earlier stages of testing, 12.5 and 12.6, which could be called version 14 and version 15. All right, Elon, I'm not holding my breath for you. We are starting to get to the point where once known bugs are fixed, it'll take over a year of driving to get even one intervention. All right. Once the bugs are fixed, we'll be on version 18. He gets so excited, and it used to be so endearing, like a child playing with a toy. Watch this as it's going to, the world is going to be sunshine and rainbows. Uh, anyway, although it's a pretty big caveat that will happen that once known bugs are fixed. Electric says, you wouldn't want to require intervention for over a year, or you know what wouldn't require intervention for over a year if all the known bugs were fixed? Tesla auto wipers. And then it's interrupted with the top comment by Andrew. A year without interventions? Sure, maybe if you leave it parked for a year. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that as somebody who's been driving this thing for over a year, I'm not holding my breath. Especially when you look at all the other times that everybody else has pumped this thing up as, oh wow, it's the best one ever. I didn't need any interventions and blah blah blah. And then immediately I get to the edge of the neighborhood this house is in, and mine tries to jump into traffic. I've heard this story hundreds of times. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying I'm not counting on it. I know it'll be better, and I probably will like it. This latest version I'm on, version 12.3.6, is the best one yet that I've experienced. Except that now it wants to ride the shoulder, even if it really shouldn't. Like this road I was driving that's got construction on it, and it wants to just kind of be sitting up in the gravel. Or the time I was driving through the swamp to the Tesla meetup, where it wanted to ride the rumble strips in the swamp. The rumble strips are there to tell you should be closer to the center of the lane because you're driving through a swamp. Be careful. So I expect it'll be better, and I expect I'll like it. I don't believe for a second this thing will be 1 year between interventions. I'd love to be wrong, but I don't. I'm not counting on that. Just saying. All right, so that was the last article we had for the day. Let me scroll through and give you an update on the HV Nomads project. I wrote a little something. Let me find it. Almost there. if I can get this notes window to stop bouncing. Uh, I think this is it. So, what we've been working on with the HV Nomads is, let me change this view, the main view. Um, is this the one or is this the post? I think it's I think it's the one. Uh, what I had to say was basically going to be the post on the Nomad notes of hvnomads.com for today, but I hadn't finished refining the post because the Nomad notes have a format to them. They need a picture, they need a title, they need to have a certain length and layout. So, basically, I wanted to tell you guys about the project, progress of the project. We've been sketching and calculating numerous systems, and we came up with. I've told you guys in the past about my vision for the solar of having kind of like these solar wings that will pop out from the sides on the long side of the vehicle. They would be north south, so they pop out just the width of a panel, one panel out. But then I found some lighter panels and cheaper. And so last week I was looking at those. But then towards the middle to end of this week, I found some of the larger panels like we were looking at earlier. These are 560s. And I discovered that they also fit nicely on the roof. So I can get, no matter how I arrange them, I can get four of them on the roof. And these are huge panels. They're bigger than residential size. And so I found the best way to get them was kind of like pews or um, bus seats, but only one row or only one column, and then have four rows. So they would be the long side of the panels would be aligned with the width of the trailer. So uh, as I passed you, you would have panel, 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 panel. So directly over the roof, I would have the four panels, and then still would have wings, but instead of the wings kind of being along the vehicle and stretching, and the reason that they were shaped the way they were was I wanted them to have a meet up in the midline of the vehicle and then deploy out. But these are just a little too wide for that, so it would look like a top hat on the trailer, and I didn't want that. Well, I did, but once I saw another way to do it, I didn't want that. So what I decided was instead of a triple stack, we'd do a quad stack, and we'd have the base row of panels just over the roof, and then we still have the wings, but they'd be basically the full square portion of the roof, and they'd slide out to the side, the full width of the roof of the vehicle as well. Which then also means we don't have to worry about finding an awning for if we wanted to sit at a place where you wanted to be outside the vehicle because it was a nice day. But but now it's a nice day and the sun is beating down on you, so you can't really just sit outside and and, and make a nice salad or whatever. Um, And then I already discussed in the past that my wife and I we went to the IKEA trip where we were looking for some decorating ideas, basically, and we ended up buying at their end of season sale. We got the, uh, the wooden tiles and the fake grass to make the ramp door of the trailer into a patio. But then you have the same problem of the sun is beating down on you. So we got an umbrella and an insect screen. But then I thought, well, what if I made basically something slide out the whole length of the trailer in you know the rear direction? So then we'd have a rear awning. That one we would probably not always deploy because depending on where we are, we might not have the room to park one car and two trailers behind it. Behind it. Um, so what that would do is it would give us an awning over the ramp door, and that would also expand the amount of solar that we could catch from the sun. And the way I was thinking of that was that's quite a lengthy slide, and so I was looking at different ways that we could fabricate a rack and a mount to make this happen, which was also part of the reason I wanted the wings to be so short and have them meet in the center line of the vehicle like that. But then we got to calculating the weights of the arrays, and we're looking at just under 300 pounds per layer of the 4 layers. And so far, I'm thinking this will work. You've got these drawer slides that can hold 500, 750 pounds. Why not use somebody's existing fabrication to slide these arrays out? So I would end up using something like you have on the CNC routers, with the plastic chains to keep the cables from rubbing or kinking up or getting caught on stuff as all of this stuff is moving around up there. And then that would give us 16 panels that we could use, and 16 panels at 560 watts apiece, plus whatever bifacial bonus they get, which is why we're also not afraid to have the bottom layer covered by having the rear awning folded in on spaces where we won't be able to extend everything out. So let me pull up my calculator real quick. So 560 times 4, we'd have 2.24 kilowatts available in road mode, assuming no bifacial bonus. But the whole point of the bifacial panels is that you get the power generated from the light reflecting back up through them. That also means that the layers below are more sensitive. So what I'm going to do is on my emergency generator, it's a battery pack with a MPPT solar um, inverter. My 3 panels that I've got out there for them, they am I even running on battery right now? That's another question. The sun is up. 1 second. I know it's distracting, but I am distracted. Right, where's it at? I opened it up. Where'd you go? On the wrong screen, of course, but that's fine. No, I'm not running on battery. It's at 81%. So let's fix that. I say battery, but the solar input to that device is, if it is not a power cut, the solar input on it is so high that that I just run directly on DC. It's an iPad app that I'm using on the Mac, so it doesn't always do what I want. And right now it's saying that it's not talking to the circuit breaker, which is a lie because the circuit breaker wouldn't even show up if if it wasn't talking. Hang on, I'll get it from my phone real quick because the phone app works a lot better. You might have seen that flash. That was us switching to battery. And now, come on. Well, while I wait for that, we are currently producing 688 watts and using 508. But that using is a little misleading. It also counts the extra battery packs that are on there. So let's see. Yeah, we're using 493 with the lights and the fan and everything, and the rest of that is going into the extra battery packs and then the on built-in battery pack. But anyway, on those I have Tigo or Tigo optimizers because the bypass diodes in those panels suck. And so if one of them's got a partial shading or is in the dark, um, it will cut out the power for the rest of them. So what these optimizers do is they allow it to just bypass whatever the panels in question are not covering. so that we can get full output from the ones that are wanting to participate. So I'll probably get a setup like that, and then put those Tigos on each of these panels. So like $20 to $40 a piece. We get like the basic model. The other thing that they offer, which is really nice, is rapid shutdown. So should something happen, like it end up on its side and the panels are getting like direct sunlight somehow still, it'll shut them down so that responders can deal with it. But so let's see, it was. Oh, why are you over there? Come over here. 560 times, not minus, times 16. We're looking at 8.9 kilowatts, almost 9 kilowatts on the roof. That sounds like a lot. It does. It sounds super awesome. But remember, these things are mounted perfectly flat. So they're only really getting their best production right around the hours around noon, so about 4 hours. And that's in the summertime. So what we determined in the summertime is we'll be able to recharge the Model X or even the Cybertruck. We can recharge our tow vehicle during the summer if we found a nice spot and we're going to be camped out for anywhere from one night, not one night, but one day to 4 days, and we could refill the tow vehicle. Mind blowing. And we could do that um, while unplugged, basically, and that was fun to me. But what's also cool with that is that it means that in the wintertime we'll still be making enough power that we won't need to worry about clouds or snow. I mean, we'll have to get up there if there's snow and brush it off the panels, but we won't need to like have a backup generator situation. And I think that's going to be fun. So that's why it needs so much more power than seems reasonable. Like we're talking about a 16-foot box, right? Why does it need 9 kilowatts of solar? My house doesn't even actually. I mean, it might have what 8 kilowatts of panels, but it doesn't have that many watts that it can take in. So let's see, it is 27 times 250. 250 is my microinverters. So I've got 6.75 kilowatts that I could take in at any point in time, regardless of what the actual rating of the array is. But the house is connected to the grid. It's not off grid, so this is the same sort of situation you have to worry about with like the homesteading and the off grid type. Because it's not only off grid, it's mobile. And the concern for them is the wintertime. Because if you're off grid, with a lot of these cabins and stuff up north, what they'll do is they've got gas generators, diesel generators, and other solutions like a wood fired stove that also makes electricity. But my whole thing for this project is no combustion, right? Electrify all the things. And a generator of any sort, wood burning stove, doesn't do that. Um, I'm not really opposed to the idea of a wood burning stove, but all the ones I've seen, they put a massive amount of particulates into the interior volume, and air safety is something I've become obsessed with in the last few years. For it had started before our respiratory crisis, but the interior air quality is something that I hadn't previously paid attention to, but I became much more passionate about. So, aside from the fire risk in such a small space, um, the air quality was primary why I didn't want to do some sort of wood burning, and definitely didn't want to do something like a Webasto diesel heater or something like that, like all the van life people do, because that's a liquid fuel. It's a crutch, and to be off grid without a generator means you're going to need a massively overpaneled array for the summertime to be adequate in the wintertime. And we looked at sizing the batteries such that we could handle a couple of days with zero solar input. So say it's just raining and snowing for 3 days on end. We could probably get to day two before deciding, hey, let's look at the weather report and see when this is clearing up. Maybe we should turn off some stuff and see how we can stretch this out. Uh, but say we forgot to do that. 3 days is the amount of batteries that we've calculated to handle that. But the other good thing about that is even if you do have like 3 overcast days in a row, um, if it's not raining or any other sort of precipitation, you're getting partial sun on those days. So when the sun comes out, and then whatever weird shapes of shadows and the clouds leave on the panels, we'll have those bypasses so that the remaining panels can put out 100%, and the shaded ones can put out what they can, assuming they're not 100% shaded. And so that would actually extend it. So probably if you can do 3 days of just straight rain or snow, that we could probably do a week, assuming that we got a reasonable amount of just daytime sun peeking through. Obviously, at the end of that, we would then have to scramble and figure out what to do. I'm probably going to put a Nax inlet on the vehicle if I can. Um, Not so I could take in DC power, which would be really nice, but I just don't see. Well, by the time this is done, it might be possible that somebody has a kit that can DC charge over Nax. But what I'm looking at is this, so I can plug in to something like my destination charger on this building, or put a J1772 adapter in there and just plug into a just a random charge point or something, some paid charging, as well as I'd also have a switch, so I can switch it from the EV charging to just plug it in like an RV park or something if we had to. I'm not planning to fail, but I am planning to see it just in case. And we did the calculations on the weight, and it's almost going to be 1,000 pounds up there on the roof. But that startled me at first, but then I realized that you're going to need water, so we're going to need fresh water. So that's going to be about 8 pounds a gallon. We're going to have, unless we get the Cybertruck, we're going to have about 5 batteries to make those 3 days. We would need significantly less if we were using the Cybertruck because it's got 123 kilowatt hour pack on board and it's got the power export. And then, of course, by the time it's all done, ours would have the extended pack in the bed because uh, right now, the Cybertruck, from what I'm seeing of the towing videos, and our Model X would give us the same effective range, about 10 to 20 miles in the favor of the Cybertruck over our Model X. But there are no 10 to 20 mile superchargers. So with the Model X having free charging, we're not in a rush to get the Cybertruck. I'm not saying that, if some sponsor said, hey, we want you, we want all eyes on our advertisement, so we need you to get the Cybertruck, and we need this and that, and if they made it possible to make it happen, I could see it. But as it stands right now, we're not likely to take them up on the jump to the foundation unless something came up and we could uh, justify it because I like to eat. And the baby, she makes noise when she's hungry, so it wouldn't make sense to get the foundation series as things are standing right this second, unless when I sit down and recalculate, things have actually been calculated wrong or something. Um, the other thing that we're looking at with that is that I would then have 2 cars in the driveway, and one of them having a $100,000 truck payment. Um, so it would interfere with being able to actually finish the project. So if we do the Cybertruck, it's going to come closer to everything being finished. Again, assuming that we don't catch ourselves a sponsor that says, "Hey, we want you to wrap your truck in pink and put a Pink Panther on the side." I'm talking about Corning. I haven't even made a proposal to Corning, um, and then we want that Cybertruck out front. And if they did, that would be something I'd be up for. Lee says you won't fail. Yeah, that's why I want to make sure we don't. So we've got what we need to make it happen. And as I've warned you guys at the start of this project, it's not going to be quick because uh, buying everything piece by piece to put it together. And again, if anything comes up and somebody says, "Here's your batteries, here's the solar," we'll adjust it and make their product fit, and we'll tell you all about it, and we'll say, "Hey, this is sponsored by so and so," or "These people gave us a discount," and if they don't stop us from saying, "Hey, we got a 50% discount," we'll say, "Hey, we got a 50% discount," or they give it to us, we'll say, "Hey, they gave it to us," but we're going to stay transparent and open with you on how all this is playing out. so that you know if I say, hey, we like Benjamin Moore paint, and um, previously I was talking about somebody else's paint, you would know that why I say I'm liking the paint is not just it would be good paint, otherwise we wouldn't take them up on it, but also you would know that there is what the relationship is between us and an XYZ paint manufacturer. So you could decide for yourself. You'd say, here's what's going on, here's the other guys, depending on, again, how it works out. Some of these companies, they're really afraid of their competition. You can't mention them. So I'll say, oh yeah, we were looking at other stuff, but now we've chosen these guys and they chose us. So here's where it is. So that's where we are on that. The truck is probably not going to happen anytime quickly, um, because as it stands, it would interfere with getting the project done. And without the extended battery pack, it doesn't get us any extra range. But what it does get that I do like, again, the power share. So that would save us thousands of dollars in batteries. It is more maneuverable because it's got the four-wheel steering. It actually turns tighter than the Model S. And the Model X is terrible in reverse. I don't know how they do it. Like I can make a perfect turn to the right, to the left, whatever. Leave the wheel where it is, put it in reverse, and end up completely different place than where I started. That's new to me. 6 years I've been driving this thing. I know this. It's not a surprise to me, but it's new to me. It's the only vehicle I've had that did that. Every other car, I would turn the wheel, go forward, go back. If I don't touch the wheel, like leave it where it is, hold it tight, I would end up roughly where I started, maybe an inch or three off from there. With the Model X, it's feet off from where I started before I end up right back where I was. So it's really weird. So I think that having the four wheel steering would be really nice. What else did I say about the thing that I liked? The power share, and oh yeah, the towing. We could then also tow with full tanks. As it's going to stand now, we're going to put in the largest tanks that the Cybertruck and the trailer can handle, and then we're going to put in some solution into the tank to stop us from accidentally overfilling it, or we'll just watch like with like a meter what we're putting in to make sure that we don't overload the Model X. That way, we're ready without having to rip everything out and re-architect everything, just because we can now hold 100 gallons instead of 40, something like that. Um, Excuse me. What did I say? Oh yeah, and then of course, if somebody wants us to have there it is. It's a really weird thing, and something else is really weird behind it. The Cybertruck, and then lastly, oh, I already talked about the turning circle. So, if you know anybody who wants to sponsor this weird project, let me know, and we'll talk to them. And the other problem with why I didn't want to look at it now is the chance of it coming early is high. Um, when we first took them up on configuring our foundation series, they were talking about September, and then it kept getting closer and closer. Now they're talking about July to August. If we select any of the options, if we want the gray, the ugly wheels, the white, the wheels that they showed off in the ad but don't have the covers yet because they're eating the sidewalls. No matter what we pick, this thing's going to be here before September, and we're not ready for that. Um, yeah, we could trade the Model X on it to make the numbers better, but that's still no car payment versus a substantial car payment. Just because I have not saved up 100 grand. If I could, then I wouldn't even need sponsors for the uh, for the trailer. Let's see. Oh yes, and of course, thank you for your continued support. And oh, Patrick came up with a nice tagline for us. It's called "High Voltage, Low Impact," and I think that we're going to start using that some more. So if you go to the hvnomads.com site, you'll see that that's actually now in the logo, and I thought it was pretty fun. What else did we do the research and the math on? We got oh yeah, so we talked about the water. So we know that we can fit 100-gallon tanks in there for now, and then that brings me into why we didn't update the renders, like the drawings. I talked about how the solar equipment just on the roof, we're looking at almost 1,000 pounds, and then you had water, batteries, solar inverters, and we have a lot of heavy components that we just did all the math for, and we have a lot more heavy components to go. So I didn't want to be constantly shuffling stuff around in a program I am barely proficient in, because I'm new to the SketchUp, and I didn't want to have all these different versions around. So what we'll probably do as we get more of the stuff decided on and locked down, well, locked down, at least to a representative unit. Like, hey, we picked a washing machine. All right, well, we're not going to use that one. We're going to use this one. All right, change the washing machine. But all the washing machines are going to be about the same size and weight. They're not going to be one at 50 pounds and one at 500 pounds. So, hi, baby. Where'd go? Where'd who go? What? She did. What she did? Sound somebody's motorcycle? Somebody's revving up their ATV outside. Um, yeah, so once we get enough of the systems got a representative idea of like what we're going to use, what grade, what um, capacity, that sort of thing, then we'll know. Oh no, these stickers are for when you use the potty, baby. When you use the potty, you can get one of these stickers. She picked up these CVS stickers off my off my desk. Um, so once we get an idea of like the weight, the size, that sort of thing, we'll start to then uh, update the render a little bit more since we won't be having to completely start from scratch again every time. Because this is a trailer, it's paramount that the thing be balanced correctly. We need a little bit more weight into the nose than into the tail, and then we need hi baby over here, baby. Yes, hi Moto. Hi baby. Is that just me? You want to say hi to everybody? Hi everybody. Where'd what go? Yeah, it's a baby. Hi baby. Bye baby. No. Hi daddy. Hi daddy. Hi baby. Hi baby. Daddy. Yes. Hi daddy. Hi daddy. Yes. So again, so that the trailer is balanced, it doesn't try and flip the Model X. We need to make sure that we are at a level of balance with everything, and rather than constantly redo that again in a program I'm not that comfortable in, I wanted to get it closer to decided, so that we're only moving little things here or there, rather than getting great experience in a program I'm only going to use just for this project. And so maybe next week we'll have a excuse me a rough sketch or at least an idea of where we want the window or that sort of thing. Do mommy show daddy. Excuse me. Decided where we're gonna put the. We decided where we're gonna put the. Not where. We decided what's. Excuse me. Excuse me. I'm talking. We decided what size window we need. And we haven't decided where it's going to be because we need it to be accessible, like from bed to be able to jump out of the window should there be something going wrong. And hopefully next week we'll have something like that to share. And I want to thank all of our channel members for your monetary contribution to keeping this part running. And I want to thank all of you guys today for your time watching this today. And yes, no way. Lee said you're growing. Wow. Yes, you are. You're getting tall. Yes. And we will catch you on Monday on the Tesla Life Express, Wednesday on the Tesla Life Show, and then next week right here on Let's Chat with Kacey Green and Friends. She's mad I put her down, but she's gonna go tell me she's going to her mom. So anyway, we'll catch you next time. I thank you again, and catch you on the flip side.